Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Life Chats with Bunny and Maggie. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Bunny.
Today, it is feeling a little seasonal outside the walls. So that's what we're going to talk about today is seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So put your thinking caps on, sit down, grab yourself a drink, whether it's water or coffee or something else that's warm, because it's a little chilly outside today in our side of the world. So we're going to talk about seasons, but not just about the leaves changing.
Mm-hmm.
But leaves changing are kind of nice.
Yeah.
And we're getting close to that seasonal time in this part of the world that the leaves show their beauty and everything that they are at this fall time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice and chilly outside, which Bunny likes.
Yes. I definitely do prefer that.
But the seasons that I'm referring to are seasons of life.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we have seasonal temperatures and seasons of the atmosphere, we have seasons of life too. And that's what we're going to talk about today, some of those different ones. And it can be seasons in friendships,
Mm-hmm.
seasons in jobs,
Mm-hmm.
seasons just of trials,
Mm-hmm.
seasons of happiness.
Yep.
Nothing, just like the seasons and the change of the temperatures, it's the same thing in life. Nothing stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is happy 100% of the time. Nobody is sad 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we want to talk about today. And Bunny, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, there's so many different thoughts, and with the seasons, there has actually a recent teaching that I have been learning about is the fact that seasons don't also don't have to be like when we talk about seasons on Earth, that we experience. And in some places they don't experience. Like if you're thinking about LA, they have like pretty much like they don't even have fall. They don't like their leaves
Yeah.
don't the leaves don't change on their trees, like that kind of stuff. And so um yes, it will be cooler, and yes, but it looks much different than and exactly like what you're talking about as well. We're in the northern hemisphere, so we're going towards winter, where our friends in the south, in Australia, the other countries that are in the south are going through into their springtime and then their summertime. So it's a very, we can be having different experiences
Yeah.
even with people that we know through connections. And but one of the things that also was that when you're taking seasons and then putting it to your life, is that you're going to have moments in your life that are seasonal like that as well. So you're going to have moments in your life where you have the springtime, where you have the new growth showing, all of the butterflies and the everything coming out, and all the buds on the trees, and you'll have the summertime where all the abundance and the happiness and the sunshine. Then you might have the time period of rest where you start slowing down, where the fall autumn season comes, and then really into the hibernation part of
Mm-hmm.
winter. And how that can happen for you in a year, that can happen for you over a decade, that can happen for you over a lifetime, but it can also happen day to day. So if you take a day, you can have periods of time where you're resting, like if you're sleeping,
Yeah.
where you're in movement and action and that sort of thing. So that was a cool little part of teaching that goes right along with this season stuff you wanted to talk
Mm-hmm.
about today. So
Yeah. And when you were saying that, what comes to my mind as well for me is that this month, which is my birth month,
mm-hmm.
I'm coming into a different season
Right.
because this year I turned 65, which is kind of, you know, known as the crone season.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I welcome a few more gray hairs, maybe. I welcome a slower pace of life, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I put less expectations on myself, maybe.
Right.
Well, those are the things that I'm choosing to put there. Well, maybe
Yes.
not the gray hairs. Maybe I'm not choosing to put those there because I do have a hair appointment coming up soon.
Yeah.
But I'm not choosing those. But you have different seasons of life that for me, this is a season of life that I look forward to,
Mm-hmm.
because number one, with what I do with people who are dying, I do know that working with dying people teaches me how to live.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very grateful to be turning 65,
Right.
because many people in this life don't reach that milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I consider a privilege and an honor to reach that milestone.
Right.
And it's kind of like spreading a different kind of wings for me. And I have goosebumps even now as I'm saying to you,
Mm-hmm.
because I do see it as a different time of life,
Right.
a different season of my life that has full optimism for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I no longer have the stress and worries of raising children. They're grown up.
Mm-hmm.
I no longer have the stress and worries of career. Nope,
Yeah.
don't have to
Yeah.
take that on. You know, all those things that people tend to have stress and worries about, at this stage of my life, I don't have to have them.
Mm.
And because I've already settled in my heart the whole dying process
Yeah.
of when
Yeah.
you get old, I don't have to think about that either,
Mm-hmm.
because that's wherever it's going to be, and it's not my worry either.
Right.
So it's all about different seasons. And I think it's so exciting that in life I'm coming into a new season. But I also recognize that there's some people who are younger,
Mm-hmm.
who are in a season of change that maybe they didn't pick,
Right.
or maybe they're not grateful for.
Mm.
Those seasons are important as well,
Yeah.
because sometimes, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree with me on this, sometimes those difficult moments teach us the most valuable things.
Well, I mean, we've talked about that before, that I have noticed the biggest transformations in my life have been because of a huge shakeup in my life.
Yeah.
So, something really big that happened, generally unexpected, not something that I would have chosen as
Yeah.
I was coasting along in my life and doing, getting kind of comfortable, which like from what I understand is the universe is about change. Like that's a constant, is that there
Yeah.
is always change, and growth and expansion, and that little shakeup is exactly what is needed to do that. In a lot of times now, I do look forward to not needing those big shakeups in the future, because you can also learn and grow through not the hugest things like
Yeah.
that. But with the toolboxes, I think that the tools that we have, the things that we can reach for, that I've learned over probably the last decade or so, um, as I implement those, then I do realize that I spend a little less time in the chaos of
Yeah.
the tribulations, and start to look at, like, what is this teaching me? Where can I go from here? And even having faith and having trust and believing that there is something else. I know I do. I talked to my sister about this recently, is that 15 years ago I had a dramatic change in my life where my marriage ended, and I had to have a um all of the things of, like, am I going to be able to be a single mom? Like, what does this look like? This My
Yeah.
whole plans have been, like, completely exploded and obliterated, and that thing I had for my life, that idea, that course that I had, has changed completely. And so what was I going to do? And I remember saying to myself, if I just know that, from 5 years from now, I will have gotten through this, I can keep going every day. And so I sat with myself, and that inner knowing knew that there was, like, I could feel her, the person after this
Yeah.
transformation. And I knew that I was going to be okay, and that my kids would be okay, and that everything, I didn't know exactly how it was going to work. That's where the
Yeah.
trust and the faith happened. But I knew, like, that there was a belief, and I just could feel that was, there's another version of me out there that had gone through this stuff and was feeling good about it. And so
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, I could just do this, and I'll, just with every little step, whether that's one forward and a few back, whatever it felt like, whatever, I just kept moving forward
Yeah.
and got there. So, yeah.
And to our listeners today, that's the reason we're having this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
is because there are people listening to us in every stage of life.
Yep.
There are people in that turmoil stage. There are people in that happy stage. There are people in that confused stage. There may be people suffering from illness, loss, grief, a variety of different things that I can't even mention off the top of my head. And I mean, we're doing this conversation to remind you that whatever the season is, you're going to come through.
Right.
And you can speak to your higher self. You can speak to your future self. You
Mm-hmm.
can speak to your soul
Right.
and get what you need while you're in it.
Mm-hmm.
That everything that you need is within.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we just need to look for it. And sometimes we just need to be quiet about it,
Right.
and seek it. Because even as I'm talking about my looking forward to this turning 65 stage of life, I'm not naive enough to think that it's all going to be wonderful. And
Right.
I'm not going to have any more trials anymore. And I'm not going to have any more moments of confusion or anxiety or different things. No, those roller coasters are still going to come. But the difference is, it's like you said about the toolkit. I have tools that I never had when I was 30.
Right.
I have tools that I never had when I was 40. I have tools that I never had when I was 50. And these tools make it easier for me to transition from one season to the next.
Right.
Because when I quiet the chaos in my life, my soul is able to speak to me, which is part of what I'm doing here at the trailer again and taking my little time away, is because sometimes we need to quiet the chaos in our life to hear from our soul, whether that soul is just within you, whether it's a higher power, whether it's from creator, whether it's from nature, wherever you seek it, you got to quiet the chaos to find the peace.
Right. Right. To listen to that and hear that in the silence is where the answers come from in yourself. And I do know you're not alone. I've been hearing this theme, which is why it was important also to share this at the like today for this podcast, was whenever whoever's listening to this, whenever it is that somebody comes across this episode, I'm sure it'll be because they're in some kind of stage where right now I've been hearing so many and seeing so many people saying, like, I'm having these feelings and I don't understand why, and I'm feeling like I'm kind of alone, but like the answer is that it's all within. So I'm feeling like I kind of need to like listen to myself and maybe even isolate a little bit, and and just kind of pull into within, like to pull into yourself to find the answers, because that really is true. Even when you do, like, I know you do and I do as well, where we watch videos, we read books, we do kind of consult or learn or expand our knowledge by listening to other people's ideas, and because that's, like you said, you can't always think of something on your own, if especially if you haven't experienced it, or if you just kind of, it's a little bit out of reach, somebody might say the perfect words that you're like, yes, that's exactly what it is, or, oh, okay, I know I'm not alone. But you still kind of can discern what is for you and what isn't. So if you hear something, it may be, oh, that kind of works for me, I'll take a piece of that, but the whole thing is not what I want. So it's like a buffet.
And especially nowadays with podcasts, with YouTube, with Spotify, with all these places where we can go and gather information, I have found myself before, in my quiet time saying, okay, creator, I need to hear from you and I need a little help, because I just need a little help. And I'll just look up or type in podcast or type in YouTube video about strength or whatever it is. And guaranteed, one of the first ones that come up will have something that I need. So it's not like you need to know the whole recipe to make the cake. Sometimes you just have to type in, I need this, and type in what you need. And hey, you and I both know. That's how I met John Shearer in
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah.
I was looking to learn more about mindfulness. Why didn't somebody from my own side of the hemisphere come up?
Yeah.
Who knows? But it's because I was supposed to connect with him.
Right.
And that's where I believe that God uses, creator uses
Yeah.
the internet.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
when you punch something into Google, you can be sure you're probably going to get something that you need to hear.
Yep.
Sometimes not something you want to hear even,
Right.
but something you need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it works that way. You don't have to know it all. Other things that I do, for example, when I'm up here, is I put music on and I just doodle draw.
Right.
I just draw little things, and listening to music and just quietly drawing,
Yep.
things will just come to me,
Yeah.
like the topic of today.
Yes. Yeah. I
Things
know
just come.
a lot of people, and you included, you've talked about this before, also will get it a lot of messages in the shower.
Yep.
Because like if you're mindlessly like doing, a routine, something that you normally would do, there is a quietness in that. People will get it from walking meditations because they might need some movement, doing the dishes. Like there's so many different ways that you can, it doesn't have to be what people think that it has to be, which is where
Right.
you sit quietly and in stillness, although that is also very, very effective. Um
Yeah.
sorry about that. But yeah, there was something else that you had talked about, which was you were saying like about Googling something. I have even noticed that there are those times where I'm like, I don't even want to think about healing. I want to escape. I'm gonna pick this movie to
Yep.
watch, or this series of TV or whatever it is that I'm like, and then wouldn't you know, the theme of the movie, or there's some kind of little nugget in that TV show where then it's like the answer that I was like trying to avoid, I guess, in a way, but it came to me because now I was not thinking it. Like if you've ever been like, "Oh, I really need to come up with this. I really need to come up with this." And you feel that like resistance energy, but once you let go, all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I remember that." I don't know, if you're like, for example, trying to like figure out an actor's name or something like that, and you're like really struggling and you're trying to think about it and nothing's coming, and then 3 days later you like are sitting there washing the dishes, all of a sudden like you're like, oh, it's so and so, and then it's like, wow, like I have that because you had let go of the like trying to find it. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of what happens in that way when I watch a TV show or a movie or something. I get that answer. It's because I've let go of that energy of trying to find the
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
So that
And
was really cool.
and sometimes we just have to let go of needing to know the answer,
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Yeah.
because sometimes the answer isn't for us to know at this time of our life.
Right.
Sometimes it's not what we need to know.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's like you said, we need to learn about trust and faith and hope.
Right.
And you don't normally, I'm not saying it's impossible,
Yeah.
but you don't normally learn about trust and faith and hope when you're in the happy place,
Right.
because you're just busy being happy.
Hmm.
You're not thinking about trust and faith and hope when nothing's going wrong in your life,
Well,
when there's no need to have it.
I was gonna say, I think in those moments, it's because you are trusting, you are having faith, you are believing. That's not when those things are being tested. Those things are
You're
tested.
living in that
You're
then.
living in it. You're living in that
Yeah.
energy, but you're being tested when it's a struggle. When you are having those other moments, that's when the faith and the trust and the belief. So sometimes even, and it's not to scare anybody away, because but there's sometimes where we can say, I want to have faith, and like realizing that, well, the way that that's going to happen is that the universe is going to throw you a hardball. And
Yeah.
but that's the only way that we can ascend. That's the only way we can get better at being humans and being and having the faith,
Yeah.
is by actually like getting those hard balls and seeing that we're still supported, that we
Yeah.
still, that those things, that we still have the universe still has our best interest at heart. All of that. Our higher self is still there and isn't going anywhere. We're only going to learn that from those
Yep.
moments where we get that hard ball thrown at us, and it's only
And
going to
it's
make it better.
looking at, like you say about the hardball,
Yeah.
how is that hardball for me?
Right. Exactly.
Because as we've said a ton of times in
Yeah.
these podcasts, everything happens for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
And when we gain that mindset, even when you're going through something difficult, even when some kind of trauma comes into your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you can look at it and say, I don't understand this, but I trust that this is for me. Can you
Right.
show me how it's for me?
Right.
And when you approach it in that way, instead of boo hoo hoo, mad at the
Yeah.
universe because this is coming to me, if you can change the way you look at it and ask, how is this for me?
Mm-hmm.
And allow,
Right. And it's not just how
allow.
it's for me, but also how is it for others? How is it for the world?
Right.
Because I mean, I did just watch a video today, and it talked about how our soul. I do believe this. I believe that souls pick the things that happen. Not every little thing, because you do have free will, but like the big things that happen, the big changes and experiences, or even specifically a theme, and like not exactly the events that will happen, but something that you wanted to learn. And there are some people who choose a life of suffering. That is like the choice that they made. Their soul was like, this is the time we're going to do that. And then us watching them suffering would actually activate our empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So they have chosen the life of suffering to then help the world as well. So not just them and their soul growth, but it also helps the people who witness it, who then
Yep.
have compassion and empathy. And so it's also that. So it's not just extension of how is this for me, but how is this for us as well. And that's like a big part.
And as well, what comes to mind when you say our souls choose that life of suffering?
Mm-hmm.
I know I had a really hard, difficult time with that when I learned that lesson. But that life of suffering is also a life of healing,
Right.
because when we choose to go down a road that is suffering in quotation marks,
Yeah.
we also make a choice to heal that,
Mm-hmm.
and as we've said many times, what we heal in our own life, we're healing in our past generations
Mm-hmm.
and we're healing in our future generations.
Right.
So that life of suffering that we talk about is also a life of healing
Right.
if you choose healing. You
Right.
can choose, because we do live in choice.
Yep.
You can choose to stay in the poo poo,
Yep.
or you can choose a life of healing.
Right.
And it's also the way you're looking at that is a life of suffering on the flip side is a life of healing.
Right.
So if you're on that journey now as a listener, try to just look at it that way. And Bunny and I talked a couple of days ago, and I know
Yeah.
one thing that came up in that conversation was about life is kind of like a merry-go-round, and
Yeah.
you're on that merry-go-round, and it keeps coming to the gate where you get on, and the universe says to you, do you want to heal this today? Nope. Okay, you can just stay on the ride and
Yep.
it'll come back around.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're here to do. That's why we're
Right.
on this earth journey. If we didn't have a purpose of being on this earth journey of healing ourselves and helping others to heal, there'd be no reason to be here.
Right. And that leads me to even more, which was to share that at no point in Earth history has there been so many people being light workers or healing, right? Because, like, and this is another way where we use it is the healing that we do. And like you said too, now that you're going into like your crone age, is that you have the wisdom, you hold the medicine of the things that you have done already, that now people come to you and say, hey, I noticed that you got through this stuff. How did you do it? And can you help me? And
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, I can show you some things that I've done, and you can choose what is best for you. And that's another, like, weighing when you hear something, when you have a belief and you hear something from somebody else. I like to kind of weigh them as if I have them both in my hands and say, which one feels better or more expansive to believe? So when you're being given that choice, And the one that feels even just a little bit better,
Yeah.
then I go, okay, I'm going to hop on that and I'm going to believe that. And that includes changing perspectives of
Yeah.
things, of a situation, of an event, of because when my nervous system is calmed down, I can look back at an event and say, now, how was this, as you said, for me? What could be in here? I weigh that in my hand. Okay, so I initially thought that it was this, that this is the reason. But if I think that it's this, does that feel better? Does it feel
Yeah.
expansive? And I go, yeah, okay, cool. I'm going to believe this about that event now. And
And
then
that's
boom.
where it all comes into the whole
Right.
seasons of life, because you and I both know, Bunny, you were in my life when I first heard about we choose the life we step
Yep.
into. And I said, hell no. Hell
Well,
no.
you use much
Big,
stronger words than that,
yeah.
but
Which
yes.
I don't want to use on this
I
podcast and get us kicked
know.
off, but
Yes.
I will say it sounds like suck.
Yeah.
Sounds like suck, but that's what I said. Suck no.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't grasp the fact that I chose this life.
Right.
So, as you said about weighing them off, at that time I said, suck no.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready for that. So, I got back on the merry-go-round and let
Yep.
it go around a little bit longer. And then there was a season in my life where I thought, because I had learned a little bit more. I had learned that when you heal yourself, you heal past generations and
Right.
future generations. And I could get on that train. I
Yep.
could go, oh, yeah, how about it? I could do that.
Right.
I can look at it that way. And when I looked at it that way, it had a whole different feel. It felt
Right.
different. The first time of just you chose this life you're in, live it, I thought, but it
Yeah.
felt different when it had a purpose. When I had
Right.
a purpose of going through that, it felt different.
Right.
And that's where, like you said, if it doesn't feel right at the time, it's okay because
Yep.
you're just expanding and growing. When it comes around again, it might feel different.
Right. Right.
And you as well know, because you've known me a long time. Probably 5 years ago, if somebody had said I was on this planet to be a healer and to
Hmm.
help others heal, I would have said, fuck no. That word would have come back.
Yep.
But now I embrace being a healer,
Right. Yeah.
so much so that I want my actual spot of
Yes.
these house of healing that I'm
Yes.
manifesting, that
Right.
I believe is going to come in my lifetime.
Right.
And whether it's a little hut or whether it's a big giant
Right.
resort center, I don't know. But now I fully identify myself as a healer
Right.
because, like you said, I have tools.
Right.
I have wisdom to give other people.
And medicine
I
to
have
share.
empathy. I have
Yeah.
compassion. I
Hmm.
have understanding. I don't need people to believe what I believe.
Right.
I can just offer them hope.
Right.
And I can tell you, we live in a world where people need hope.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And the
And
best way to give people hope is actually just to embody hope yourself. And then, like, those around you will just kind of see it and match that frequency. It's the same when we had Anthony, when he plays his flutes and he plays them at the different frequencies.
yeah,
And then it's like, and that just reminds your soul, reminds your body, oh, yeah, that's the frequency that I want to match. And that's
yeah.
exactly what you're doing when you're in, like, you don't even, like you said, you don't have to go and tell everybody, oh, you need to have hope, you need to have hope. You just go, I have hope. Do you want some hope? Like, come on, come close
And
to me and you
and
can
it
have hope
comes
too.
it comes from just being kind.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can offer that hope just by being kind to people,
Yep.
just by listening to your inner soul. Because
Hmm.
sometimes people just need a hello. Sometimes
Yeah.
they just need a smile.
Hmm.
Sometimes they couldn't handle it if you gave them a hand and
Right.
said,
Or a hug.
oh, yeah,
That's how it's.
because it's the same thing. I'm the same as you. Sometimes I can't handle people hugging me.
Right.
I can handle it more than you can,
Yeah.
but
I'm getting better.
it can be just simply being you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and I know now, people do radiate to that frequency.
Hmm. Yep.
Strangers, animals,
Yeah.
birds, Hey, the mice liked me so much at this
Yes.
trailer, they wanted to come in.
Yeah.
They do. People
Yeah.
radiate to your frequency. So
Yeah.
if you're looking for something, we have some tools.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
reach out to us if
Yeah.
any of this resonates with you. Reach out to anybody else who is on the same
Right.
frequency that we are. It doesn't need to be us,
No. Yeah.
but
Absolutely not.
just be on that merry-go-round of life in those different seasons and be ready
Mm-hmm.
for whatever you're in and
Right.
knowing that it's always going to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we could probably end this one here by saying, if you want to reach out to us, as Maggie said, reach out to us. You can email us at aboveandbeyond@gmail.com. You can check out our website, see what we're up to. We never know where this is gonna go. So even whenever you hear this, who knows what we'll be doing at that time. We're open to that. That's the whole thing. We are open to wherever we're gonna be led. Spirit led, heart led. This is what we're in here for. So yeah, reach out to us, check out our website at aboveandbeyond.com. Also, check us out on Facebook, YouTube. Give us some likes, shares. Check us out on Spotify. Become a follower. Do all of that stuff. And we'll see you again on Monday. So,
Bye,
awesome.
everybody. Have a great day.